All right, welcome to uh week 24 minus 2. Uh why not just shoot them all at once? But I was going to go through and make a presentation, but since now I'm on a very tight timeline, um as of current week, you'll see this later, but I don't know if I have the time to work on grab that, and I don't want to go through Claude and kind of just like, hey, make a presentation off of these notes, and let's see what happens. So this dialogue, this idea, this video is on like emergent systems and assembled systems or synthetic systems and organic systems in that sense, right? Like so. Let me just go through my notes in that kind of manner where I kind of what I want to say brain drain this, but obviously it's just like throughout a day last week, I was like, you know what? I'm kind of inspired. Let me take a little more artistic or like a more sentiment type of viewpoint or ideal concept and take a poke at it. So organic feedback kind of is based off like experience and I guess in a sense feedback, dialogue, and what is it, like back testing per se. I don't put much relevance on back testing as much, but obviously I'm still a novice and this is like my third year as a trader. But the process is very iterative, right? When it comes to emergent or organic systems, you can't replicate, what in the world did I write? You can't replicate a journey and the battle scars, right? Like, you could replicate it in a sense, but you can't capture that exact same story, right? Everyone's unique in their own way, and I think that there's something to be said about like individual ideas, thoughts, viewpoints, stories, and how one individual person's brain viewpoint is completely differentiated from somebody else. Obviously, there will be key points that you kind of overlap, but what's more attractive is that brain power and where it's kind of going at, right? What's the vision? Where are you going? And what are you trying to pinpoint and kind of capture system-wise or narratively or however you presented yourself? It's kind of fluid. And then synthetic, right? It's this thing that's stitched together and derivative, I think, or at least sentimentally. You could argue that, I think, and perceive it that way. All right, so like, oh, I'm going to grab a derivative of a derivative of a derivative and create something, or take this idea and just modify it slightly and readapt it. This is synthetic, this is derivative. And poking at that kind of a little, right? This hybridization synthesis of both, organic and synthetic, where Pareidolia, a company, kind of came out of a final paper I had in a insurance class. Conceptually, it's the same thing. Goal-wise, obviously, I want to, be maybe a winner-take-all or a vertical integrate or horizontal integrate. The world is your oyster. But conceptually, whoa there, partner. Conceptually, Pareidolia is, the monster of Frankenstein, right? It's an organic and synthetic, a synthetic organic or organic synthetic. Not totally certain what sounds cooler. I think a synthetic organic or an organic synthetic kind of seems interchangeable, but a synthetic organic sounds cooler. And then obviously just extrapolating experience, right? I've like almost coming up on 7 years of investment experience when it comes to like personal finance, investing my own money. 2 3 years of trading, and obviously all of these papers that I wrote in college, right? This is kind of like a thesis, or like a synthetic, or a swap per se for an MBA. I think that seems more relevant than going to go to grad school. But obviously, growing pain and failure is something that you should kind of be allowed to poke at and try to target, intentionally or unintentionally. You got to be able to, like, at least try building your own thing, and going at it on your own, on some type of system, process, whatever. How you get there, how you build this thing, is completely independent. And you could be living in a shack, you could live with your parents, you could, I think there's ingenuity to it, and I don't understand why that doesn't get captured. So, whatever. There's lived or live data, right? And the application of these systems, like organic and synthetic systems, processes, experience. So let's take it like narratively, or obviously. You can have, here's someone's life story or whatever, like, hey, what do you wish you did in your life, or whatever. They're synthetic data, right? Your organic data at least seems to be your own stuff, and synthesizing or ignoring. I mean, sometimes data is noise, so you never quite know. I think you like intuitively know, but obviously sometimes your gut feeling is wrong. What else? Like Frankenstein would be something new, fresh, and organic. The world. Frankenstein. Well, either way, I think I was poking at like Frankensteining something for it to be new, fresh, and organic. And then obviously this character. Oh, there you go. So Frankenstein would be something new, fresh, and organic, referring to the monster. And then the carry forward of experience, in this case, is synthetic, but the operations are organically derived and partly replicable. Right, there's a certain residue, resonance, and uniquity. Right, obviously there's pattern recognition, and you can't replicate taste. Right, these are some things that you just can't, like. You have to build it yourself. I think that's part of this, right? You have to build the journey. You have to build your systems. You have to do it all organically, or else, if you just automate everything, at least from the start. If you automate immediately, you give up all the upside. Like, you give up the process. You got to respect the process. I think you got to respect the journey. And I think especially with like all this tech now, and I think that's relevant, especially with, week 23 minus 2 is episode. I was poking at like using LLMs and AI and whatever. Obviously, I'm going to play around with Claude Code right when I get back from my travels, and just like immediately dive headfirst into that. Or it's just like, obviously, I have my processes, I have my data, I can throw whatever the fuck at this thing and make it my own little, I don't know, crystal ball, per se, right? Like, okay, I know exactly what I want to do. I don't know how to code, but obviously, I know exactly what I want. Make it happen, baby. Let's make the dream work, and it'll be magnificent, and we could just apply this to whatever the hell I trade, and let's say forecast events. I think that's a part of the piece of the puzzle that I'm not quite the best at personally managing, especially when there's something like a black swan, like this last week, where yen dropped to 154, and then all of a sudden it's 157 yesterday, today, whatever. And it's like, how am I supposed to manage a drop of like 10 yen when I'm trading like a 3 yen spread? That doesn't, that's not day to day. I can't plan for this. I need a machine to do this for me. And maybe, as the operator, this is my little beast of burden, my art house, my robo console to do this while I'm like, okay, just punch this into my program and, okay, cool. Calculate it for me and cool, right? Like, and that'd be great. And my philosophy with all this tech, right, is like, you can't do this. I mean, you have to be the writer. You have to be the designer. You have to be the conductor. This is a vehicle for your own success. But if you don't know how to play painter, if you can't be creative with it, if you can't figure out what your objective is with this thing, at least in the corporate world, it seems like this shit will replace you. Maybe that's not the case if all the, what do you call it, the tokens, the whole token viewpoint becomes swappable with an employee. But as a two-man operation, this is kind of a necessity, right? Necessary spend. There's no way you're getting an employee, right? You just got to buy this thing, pay for this thing, and take on more responsibility. And as an operator, I think that's awesome. That's fantastic. I think you should have more responsibilities as someone young in the corporate world, as a startup, whatever. You have to be dynamic, and maybe that's a caveat. Weakness, right? Where you have to be this generalist across the board or hyper fixated on whatever product. And I think that's what attracted me to finance, where it's like, obviously I've kind of pigeonholed myself, but I'm going to keep going down this rabbit hole because this is fun. This is inquisitive. This is, it's dynamic. And I don't think there's a way out unless you hit it, you make it big, you close shop, you start a new venture with friends, associates, whatever, and moving forward from there. But, I think it's more intuitive, ingenuity, right? There's more fun to be had building something that's fully of your own, brain capacity. Right? You can design it specifically to be exactly how you want things to be. And what in the world did I write here? Yeah. There's got to be this like psychological and philosophical independence. But it's all derived synthetically or organically through all this implementation, through adaption, through testing, through like all this testing. Essentially, I mean that's essentially how the scientific process. Or just, hey, V1 didn't work out. What about V2? What about V3? What about V4? How about I merge V2 and 5 in order to create V6 or 7, whatever. Oh Lord, inside joke. There. Wait, 6, 7. And that's about all I have. I mean, it's just playing around with a more philosophical viewpoint here. I mean, obviously, I wish I did a presentation, but I am nowhere near a computer in the next couple weeks. For the next couple weeks. Anyway, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy this one. For my people on Instagram, you know what I'm doing. Anyway, thanks for watching, listening, subscribing, ring the bell. You know the drill. I'm not here to sell anything. I'm just a guy throwing my thoughts at the wall. And thanks for watching Founder Log episode 24-2. Bye-bye.